We have a ton of news to cover in tonight's video. We have some trade talk around the Ottawa Senators, Toronto Maple Leafs, and Calgary Flames. We have some updates on potential NHL expansion. The Calgary Flames appear to be on the right path to get a new arena. We have some updates on the Vancouver hockey operations, news from the waiver wire, a signing in Anaheim, some prospect signings, and a whole lot more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a ton of news to talk about today, so let's dive right in and get started. First up, in case you missed it earlier, the Anaheim Ducks and RFA defenseman Jamie Drysdale did come to terms on a new contract. He signs a 3-year deal at $2.3 million. There is a video out earlier on the channel. If you want a little bit more of a deeper analysis, you can watch that. I'll link it here up in the YouTube cards. But Drysdale has signed. We're just probably down to, for prominent RFAs, down to Shane Pinto, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. We also had a bunch of players on waivers, 16 in total, and one of the more noticeable names there was Penguins forward Alex Nylander. And Cole Lynn is also in Seattle. I think he might get some attention. He had a really good run in the AHL last season, and he's got some NHL experience, so we'll see if either of those guys get picked up at 2 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. We also have our first suspension of the season, and that came as a result of a game that happened between the Los Angeles Kings and Anaheim Ducks. The Kings forward Arthur Kaliyev has been suspended, and it's a total of 4 games. He has to sit out 2 preseason games and 2 regular season games. I don't know if he would have suited up for the remaining preseason games or not, but he will be suspended for those. And then the first 2 regular season games of the year as well for a kneeing incident that happened against the Ducks and forward Chase DeLeo. Unfortunately for Chase DeLeo, he has suffered an MCL sprain and is going to be out for about 2 months. So he's out 2 months, and Kaliyev will miss the first 2 games of the season. So we have our first ruling from the Department of NHL player safety. As I mentioned, we also have a fairly big update from Vancouver and their hockey operations department. After 45 years with the team, including his time as a player, longtime Canucks Stan Smyl is basically starting the process of retiring and is going to be starting to transition his way out of hockey operations. So he'll slowly work his way here into retirement. So after 45 years and a number of roles within the organization, Smyl will be stepping down. So obviously, you know, it's a long time. He's a hockey lifer. He played his hockey career there. He's had a number of roles over the time, especially most recently he was like interim GM when they were going through their process here after the Jim Benning and Travis Green were let go there not too long ago. So obviously Smyl's a huge part of the Canucks history, and certainly want to wish him the best. He's been there forever. It seems like he's been there pretty much as part of the organization longer than I've been on the planet. So it's certainly a long time. A few signings today, some prospects. We got a couple of players here that were getting ELCs. The Edmonton Oilers signed an undrafted player as well, 19-year-old Brady Stonehouse, who's been pretty solid player for the Ottawa 67s in the OHL. The right winger put up 57 points last year in 68 games, gets a 3-year entry-level contract. After not getting drafted, he was invited to attend. I believe he went to the rookie camp this year, got good attention, played well, and obviously based on what they've seen before and how he appeared in their camp, he looked good. So Stonehouse gets a contract. So it's nice to see for the Ottawa 67s player. And the San Jose Sharks have signed one of their prospects as well, Jake Furlong. He gets a 3-year entry-level contract, average annual value $870,000. He was a 5th-round pick in 2022. He's a left-shot defenseman from my neck of the woods, just in the province next door here, down in Nova Scotia. He's actually the current captain, recently named captain of the Halifax Mooseheads. He put out 50 points in 67 games last year on the blue line for the Mooseheads, and I believe he's already got a couple of points in his first, I think they played 3 games so far in the season this year in the queue. So Jake Furlong is off to a good start. Nice to see him get signed by his draft team in San Jose. A few other notable prospects as well that are expected to be NHLers, but have been demoted to start the season. A couple in Calgary that were just dropped down as Dustin Wolf and Connor Zary. A lot of talk about Dustin Wolf being NHL ready, and the Flames maybe carrying 3 goalies. Well, obviously they've opted against that, likely due to cap purposes. The Senators have sent down former first-rounder Tyler Boucher, who's missed most of training camp with an injury, so that'll be good to get him into the Belleville camp and get ready for that season. And Samuel Poulin, former first-rounder for the Penguins as well, also sent down to the American Hockey League. Now, we also got some big news today with the Calgary Flames organization. They've taken a major step forward to getting a new arena deal. Obviously, we know that back, I think it was 2-3 months ago, there was an announcement that there was an agreement in principle with the Flames, along with the city of Calgary and the province of Alberta, to get a new building. But it was just like a memorandum of understanding, and now they actually have an actual signed agreement. So that's going to be, obviously they're all going to be kicking in different portions here, but the city of Calgary, the province of province of Alberta, and the Calgary Flames themselves, the team or the company that owns the Calgary Flames, Calgary Sports Entertainment. So ultimately, construction sounds like it's going to probably start before the end of the year, but it's mostly going to be like utility work. I don't think it's going to actually be in the actual building itself. Completion of the event center is expected to be done around the end of 2026 or early 2027. Some feel those projections are a little bit aggressive and wouldn't be shocked if it's maybe a little bit later into 2027 when it's all said and done. The total of the project is estimated to be around $1.2 billion, which also not only includes the new arena for the Flames, but also includes a community rink, and of course all the transportation utility work in the surrounding neighborhood. And there's going to be some other obviously components of this event center going up as well. So the city's expected to pay around $537 million. The team initially is going to put up $40 million, but then pay $316 million through lease payments. And the province is pledging $330 million, but that $330 million won't actually go towards the building or the arena itself. It's basically going to cover the transportation utility work that needs to be done to prep everything. So the city's on the hook for any cost overruns as well. We know during construction, if you've know anything about it, I know I've well versed in it, working in the finance world most of my adult life, that construction projects rarely get completed on budget. It's not very common. So anything that goes above and beyond the cost that's been estimated here, the city will be on the hook, and the team has agreed they may pick up part of it as well. So that's great news for the Calgary Flames. Obviously, their long-term viability in Calgary is important for them to get a new building. The Saddle Dome is in rough shape. It desperately needs to be replaced. I know there's talk of the Saddle Dome being demolished as well. I've seen some local residents saying they'd rather see it be repurposed, but it might need enough money to be repurposed and it may not be worth it. I'm not entirely certain, but right now I think the tentative plan is for it to be demolished there. So at the end of the day, this is great news for Calgary. We're obviously 2023 now, so we're about 4 years away. Just like, for example, not long ago when Michael Landauer bought the Ottawa Senators and they were asking him about a new downtown arena, he said, well, the way he's looking at it, he plans to be in Canada, where the arena is in Canadian Tire Center, for about 5 years, because it's probably going to take him, it might take him another 6 months to a year to get anything in lined up and firm, and then you're looking at probably a good 3 years plus to be completed. So looking at a 4 to 5 year project. So at the end of the day, it's not unreasonable for that to take that long. But great news for Calgary fans all around, and I'll certainly be curious to see once we get some renderings to see what it looks like. We'll discuss that here on the channel. Now, as of right now as well, we don't have a firm location and date for the NHL draft for 2024. I know there's been Board of Governor meetings going on, which is where we get the news from the salary cap that came out yesterday. Some talk about the draft as well. I know NHL insiders are now saying that it might be possibly held at the new Sphere in Vegas. I mean, the Sphere is like the new, I guess, one of the premier event places now, not only in the States, but pretty much around the world. If you haven't seen it, it's a really, really cool concept. It's a really neat idea. So they are kind of looking at maybe having the NHL draft, possibly the awards there as well. So we'll see. I know they're kind of fond of having the awards and the draft in the same city if they can, just so there's not too much travel between all the NHL people. So at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. It's not confirmed yet. Still lots of progressive talks as well between the NHL and the IHF around Olympic participation. There's still a lot of logistics for 2026 to get worked out, but there's some meetings ongoing as well. And the NHL actually is going to be partnering with USA Hockey to be involved with the U18 tournament as well, which would feature a lot of prospects getting ready to go into the NHL draft. So that's new, and the NHL is still, of course, working on a World Cup of Hockey scenario that they're hopeful and optimistic for 2025, but time's ticking for that to come through. We're starting to hear a lot of whispers about NHL expansion again. Gary Bettman was asked about expansion, and he didn't outright say yes, it's happening. Basically what he said was that there's numerous cities that have solid interest, and that at this point they're not quite ready yet, essentially. But he said, ultimately, if a team or a group came to them and said, we want to put a team in this city, we have an arena, we have the money, we have the ownership group, here's how it would all work, that they would certainly be more than willing to listen. But ultimately, there's been about 4 cities that have been mentioned as places that have been reaching out, having meetings with the NHL, and have expressed interest numerous occasions. Doesn't mean that they're going to get teams, but at the end of the day, they're key locations. Now, one of those is Quebec City. Now, of course, Quebec City's been rejected before because the NHL, based on today's league and today's game, feels that it's not a big enough market. I know they're going to keep trying. I don't blame them. I personally think it can work. To me, there's not much difference between Quebec City and Winnipeg, and hockey in Winnipeg works fine. So I don't quite get that, but I kind of do in a sense. But Quebec City is one of those teams. The other 3, of course, are American cities, which include Salt Lake City, of course, Atlanta and Houston. Atlanta has taken some other steps forward, I guess, with their local government and the ownership group that's interested there, and maybe getting things closer to having for an arena. It'd be like in one of the suburbs. Some people are really against Atlanta having a third shot at this because they've had teams on 2 separate occasions and it's failed. I know it's not necessarily. The biggest issue there is that they haven't had a great ownership group, but they have had issues with fan base too. I'm not really sure how to feel about it. I mean, if it works, it works. It's great. It's a great market, but I guess it's looked upon as being a very transient market. And the other, and some people say it's not a sports town. Now, I guess for those of you who may live closer to it, can maybe offer up some different opinions there. But I know they were saying, some people, I know Frank Saravalli was talking about this on this podcast, saying that the other pro sports teams there don't draw well, even including the Atlanta Braves, who've been an extremely successful Major League Baseball team. So I don't know. But besides Atlanta, Houston, we know, in Salt Lake City is certainly big markets that are, Houston especially. Salt Lake City is not as big a market, but certainly very much interested. I know Pierre LeBrun on TSN Insider Trading said he exchanged messages with the owner of the Utah Jazz in the NBA, who is the owner that's very interested in bringing in an NHL franchise to Salt Lake City as well. And he just reiterated that he would be super interested if it were available. So Salt Lake City, Atlanta, Houston, Quebec City, all showing interest. To me, it sounds like it's a matter of not if, but when, that it's going to happen. The NHL will expand again. I suspect it's probably going to go one at a time. I would think that bringing in 2 teams at one time would probably be really, really hard for teams to do an expansion draft and lose 2 players. So I think they would probably be staggered. They might approve 2 teams, for example, in one go-round, or they might approve 3 or 4. They might do this, but just have it incrementally staggered. For example, one in the West, one in the East, and then one in the West, one in the East, or something like that. But they also need to sort out the Coyote situation. Sounds like they're going to give them till about February to get an arena sorted out. If for some reason things don't work out there, one of these cities might be the place that gets the Coyote. So they have to kind of get everything sorted there on a more long-term stability before they go too far with this anyway. When asked about what the expansion fee would be, Bettman just said a lot, but ultimately it's expected to be around $1 billion, considering the Senators just sold for $950. Now, in the trade front around the NHL, we'll start with the Calgary Flames. I know Elliot Friedman in his latest blog had some updates on Elias Lindholm. We saw the Backlund extension get done here in short order, and it really wasn't long after camp started. A friendly contract, in my opinion. Lots to like, and the mood around the team was very different. Just everybody's certainly feeling a lot better about things with the Flames after all the negativity they went through last year. But he's also said that his estimated price tag on the Lindholm extension might have been underestimated, and now feels it might be over $9 million. So I do wonder how rich of an appetite it's going to be for the Flames to get this done, or are they ultimately going to say this is too much and may have to trade him? I mean, I know that they're probably going to see how things start for the season. I don't suspect that it's going to be done before the season starts. I know back a few weeks ago there was some optimism that maybe they could get a Lindholm extension finished before the season started, but if it's going to take that much, I don't know, because I mean, I'm sure that Lindholm's looking at the Huberdeau contract, and the fact that he plays center, has been more productive, at least last year. He's probably not wanting to take a whole lot less than Huberdeau's making over 10. So at the end of the day, that's going to be tricky to do, but that's the latest on Lindholm, and I do wonder if that might be pricing himself out of Calgary, and if it will lead to a trade. A lot of that's going to depend, I think, on how the season goes, which is difficult to say. A lot of different opinions out there. When it comes to the Ottawa Senators and Shane Pinto, it sounds like there might not need to do a trade, that it might be a case of Josh Norris going on an LTIR. Based on the comments from DJ Smith today, it sounds like the issues with Norris might be as much mental as it is physical, or more so even. Basically, after having 2 surgeries on the shoulder and, having issues, I think what he's dealing with might be as much kind of nervous to be re-injured as it is, the actual shoulder itself. I don't know, but I mean, I can understand 100% why mental health would be tricky, how you'd have doubts and, concerns, and maybe overthinking it too much. I don't know, but just the way he said that he has to be mentally ready. So it leads us to think that it's more so, it might be more that than it is, physically the shoulder, because we've seen him wear a contact jersey, like a regular jersey in practice, take bumps, everything looks fine. We'll see. At the end of the day, they still have one more exhibition game after tonight. They're playing Winnipeg tonight. He's sitting out, but he did skate this morning after taking yesterday off, which I think has everybody feeling a little bit better, but we'll see. There's still a few more days, one more exhibition game, a little bit early, but if he did need some time to heal, that would solve all their problems, at least on a short-term basis. They wouldn't be forced to make a trade. They could put him on LTIR, give him the first month of the season to get everything fixed up and recovered here, and then get Pinto signed, and then make a deal, sometime in the first month of the season to get cap compliant, to bring him back when he's ready. So we'll see. I mean, there's been lots of talk about the Flyers and the Sharks being the main teams they've had contact with to move somebody, whether it be Matthew Joseph. We've heard Sokolov's name has come up as well as a potential sweetener too. So we'll have to see where that goes. But hopefully they'll get Norris settled and Pinto signed and be back to full strength here in short order, but not much of an update on Pinto in the contract. The extension talks, it sounds like there's still a bit of a gap and no closer to getting a deal done. But again, like we always say, one phone call can change everything, and we'll see. But if the Norris injury does persist, then they may not have to make a trade. And the Leafs and the Habs both have one thing in common, and that's not sure what to do with their number 3 goaltender. I think they're both leery of putting them on waivers and worry about division rival, the Tampa Bay Lightning, snagging them, whether it be Martin Jones in Toronto or Caden Primo in Montreal. I think they might have more interest. The Lightning would probably have more interest in Jones, to be honest, just because he's got more experience. However, they need to do something with Vasilevsky out for at least 2 months to start the year. On top of that, they have Jonas Johansson, who has been okay. He's done fine so far in the preseason, but it's early, and Matt Tompkins is his backup, who doesn't have any NHL experience. He does have pro experience at different levels, but not the NHL. It's just hard to imagine the Lightning going into the season without picking up another experienced goaltender, and they apparently are having their eyes on some of these guys. I even seen some suggesting, well, if the Leafs know for sure that they're going to take Martin Jones, why don't they try to work out a trade? But it's hard to imagine the Leafs and Lightning working out a trade, being division rivals and both fighting for playoff spots in the same division. Why would you want to make your rival stronger in that sense? Montreal would probably care a little bit less because they know they're not going to be, likely a playoff team this year. I think they understand that. I mean, at the end of the day, they want to be, win as many games as they can, but I think it's fair to say that it's a development year for them, so they would probably be less concerned about trading within the division than the Leafs would, but still, it's not really great that you want to make your division rival stronger. So I don't know what the Leafs and the Habs are both going to do, but they're both concerned of putting that number 3 goalie on waivers, that they're going to lose him, whether it be Tampa or even Columbus, to that matter. I know they took Spencer Martin, but who's to say they wouldn't try to upgrade and put Martin back on waivers or something like that? We'll have to see, but lots of goaltending questions going to be answered here in the coming days as we get closer to the beginning of NHL season. So let me know your thoughts on all today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.